Industrialised logging leaves vast tracts of bare earth and changes light regimes. Forestry's deliberate experiment to promote blackbutt by disturbing soil, and also an excuse to take all wood, is resulting in mass weed invasion. Lantana and camphor laurel are appearing in the pristine creeks and valleys, for they're disturbing soil right up to the rainforest and drainage line margins. Seeds that have never been seen in these areas before can now germinate. About another 1.5 meters, we have here a little grove of the camphor laurel seedlings. We could have shown you this along the tracks, but over the last 6 months I've been pulling out probably 200 every time I go for a walk along the main track. So now we've just come off track just a couple of metres, and this is what we find, that they are all through the state forest. So down all the drainage lines and the gullies. Walk another couple of metres, we'll find more. Hi, I've just met you on the track today, and it's just sheer chance that I've met you, a forestry worker, and you don't want to be named. We started talking about the camphor laurel invasion, and which I'm just pointing to one now, and I've showed you that up the track here's a whole lot of them appearing, and you said that you've been noticing them?
Yeah, no, generally through the forest, pretty much all up the coast you can notice it through there. Didn't realise it was going to become, a full tree though. You don't assume that it's going to take off.
Well, as we can see, we're just seeing seedlings here, but we've been pulling out ones that are like over 1 metre high. We've been pulling out masses of them. I wish we hadn't now, because we could have left the evidence, but you had a policy of burning and thinking that the camphor laurel could be killed by the burning, is that correct?
I just assumed that that fire would retain it and let the native species come through.
Yeah. 3 to 4 metre camphor laurel outcompete blackbutt in some forestry plantations. On the left is blackbutt, on the right is camphor laurel. Kilometres of lantana in logged forests lets bell minor birds outcompete others that would have killed bugs. The remaining trees die, and what's left is a weed forest. Forest New South Wales sponsored research on this, but ignore their own findings. We will be left with seas of lantana. Here it is, almost a monoculture, and I'm walking down the trail. This, of course, is where it's not camphor laurel. And this exercise is repeated all over New South Wales. In some places the weed might be different. But this is the fate of our hardwood forests, and anyone can see that we've got very, very little chance of preserving our wildlife when it's going to be predated by feral animals, have no habitat because it's left with trees that size, and then not to mention it's got no food because the mix of fruits, berries, leaves that it used to rely on from the native species have been replaced by this, with an understory of this. And soil erosion, the spoiling of the protective filter of our upper, mid and lower catchments, the source of our clean water. They knew this 80 years ago. Just telling me that in this section that we're looking at over there, because you're coming back again and again and again, because you've got this small turnaround time. You're
Yep.
killing the regeneration every time you come back.
Yeah, I just
Damaging
through
it.
the harvesting, you got a higher chance of damaging it, and then you just have that problem of your regen. You're getting less regen all the time.
The ultimate tragedy is the loss of wildlife on this continent, which has the worst extinction record. The removal of most of the older trees that would eventually develop the hollows upon which the specialised Australian marsupials depend to breed and shelter. The destruction is occurring on an unprecedented scale, and the removal of the understory and the ground covers, of the variety of the flowering and fruiting shrubs and herbs upon which many particular species depend. Not enough of these species are represented in reserves, and without the intact ecosystems of our forests, none of our nature reserves will survive in the long term. Traditionally, along with its timber function, forests were seen as a resource of beauty, a resource of wildlife, a place people could dream and enjoy. Now they're becoming factories. While a national review of the endangered status of koalas is being undertaken, Forest New South Wales is cutting all the mature tallow wood and deliberately trashing the immature tallow wood and leaving their roots exposed in the sun so they can promote blackbutt. The bare necessities for wildlife. Some place in which to roost, to breed, to shelter, to escape from predators. Without these, destruction of species already rare, already on the brink of extinction, and the death of many, many more that we consider common, but will not always be so. Boral's contract to the rights of about 80% of New South Wales native hardwood is in place for another 11 years. An industry-backed review recommends extending such contracts across Australia. Big companies might see our forests as factory-sized sticks for pulp products in the future, from pseudo plantations, perhaps for phony carbon credits. There is a current push too to burn native forests and call it a renewable energy resource. In September last year, Boral summons Forest New South Wales to court for lack of supply, for timber that most people know doesn't exist. They can claim millions in compensation. So under this present agreement, we lose millions trying to fulfil the contract and millions if we don't. Will the big end of the timber industry again outmaneuver state and federal politicians? Perhaps trade monetary compensation for extended access to native forests that might be relevant to some aspect of a future carbon market. So New South Wales and Australia become a timber mine, benefiting big companies and the politicians who don't oppose it. Tell your local member, we need to get the state government to ask the federal government to buy out this contract so we can preserve our forests. It's our call. Forest New South Wales managers have to mislead the public, or they risk losing their jobs. We let this situation continue, we lose our creatures, our forest resources as yet undiscovered, our domestic timber supply, our catchments' health. But most of all, just like we felt with the coal seam gas issue and continue to do so, as with many things now. We lose the ability and the sense that we have any control over our environment or that of our children or grandchildren forever in the future. A lot will grow back, but it will be disproportionately blackbutt, to suit a multinational supply and to be cut at 20 centimetres diameter in the future. Impossible for survival of most of our wildlife, and ending our domestic mixed hardwood supply. Borrell's Herons Creek Mill, costing taxpayers millions of dollars a year for 60 jobs. But our wildlife, water quality and tourist amenity vandalised, and our own domestic hardwood resource trashed. For a shonky yet tragic timber supply agreement.